Hey, good morning, everybody. Welcome to Morning Meditations with Josh and friends. If you're following along in our study over the last couple of weeks, we've been in the book of Judges and we've been analyzing Israel's moral corruption and their downfall, kind of the steady downfall and their moral decay as we look through these different judges or rulers as God is appointing them in this pattern where Israel is close to God and in community with God, and things are good. And then they slowly drift away from God and they start worshiping these other gods of the local tribes of the Transjordan region, and ultimately end up in a bad spot, being oppressed or slaughtered, or bad things are happening. And then they're reaching out to God again, and it's this pattern that goes back and forth and back and forth. Last week we ended our study of the week with Jephthah. And if you remember, Jephthah was the one who, he was sort of like the leader of the biker gang. His mom was a prostitute and he was pushed out of his land till things got really bad. And then Israel came to him and said, hey, you're kind of like the best bar fighter warrior in town, come rescue us. And he does, and he makes the vow to God, whatever, if you deliver my enemies into my hands, and the first thing that comes out of my house when I return home, I will sacrifice to you. And the tragedy, of course, is it was his daughter, his only daughter. So we pick up in chapter 12 of Judges with what's called intertribal dissension. And this is right after Jephthah presumably offers his daughter up as a burnt offering to God. Some scholars, like I said last week, think that he just gave her as an offering to the temple, to work in the temple, but there's a lot of scholarly debate about that. So we see now that the men of Ephraim were called to arms, and they crossed to Zaphon and said to Jephthah, why did you cross over and fight against the Ammonites, and did not call us to go with you? We will burn your house down over you. Jephthah said to them, my people and I were engaged in conflict with the Ammonites who oppressed us severely. But when I called you, you did not deliver me from their hand. When I saw that you would not deliver me, I took my life into my own hand and crossed over against the Ammonites, and the Lord gave them into my hand. Why then have you come up to me this day to fight against me? Then Jephthah gathered all the men of Gilead and fought with Ephraim, and the men of Gilead defeated Ephraim, because they said, you are fugitives from Ephraim, you Gileadites in the heart of Ephraim and Manasseh. Then the Gileadites took the fords. Sorry, guys. Took the fords to the Jordan against the Ephraimites. Whenever one of the fugitives of Ephraim said, let me go over, the men of Gilead would say to him, are you an Ephraimite? When they said no, they said, then say Shibboleth. And he said, Sibboleth, for he could not pronounce it right. Then they seized him and killed him at the fords of the Jordan. 42,000 of the Ephraimites fell at that time. Jephthah judged Israel 6 years, and then he died. And then following Jephthah, there was a series of 3 minor judges, Ibzan, Elon, and Abdon, which they cumulatively ruled over Egypt for 31 years. So 31 plus 6 years of Jephthah was 37 years of peaceful reign over the Israelites. Now, what is the significance of what we just read about the Ephraimites? Pride and arrogance. Yeah, pride and arrogance leading to their downfall and their intertribal dissension. So what we just read is basically, Ephraim, who Joshua, by the way, Moses' successor, was an Ephraimite. And at the time, they were one of the largest and most powerful tribes of the Israelite people. But after this fight with Jephthah, their tribe, they have like 40,000 tribal members die. They're slaughtered in this confrontation at the Jordan, and they never recover from it. So pride and arrogance. The Ephraimites, they gather and they go and they're like, hey man, you have like this great victory and you didn't even call to invite us. What's up with that? We're gonna burn your house down. And Jephthah is like, what do you mean I didn't call you? I totally called you guys and you didn't come. And when I saw that you weren't gonna come, then I had to do this thing on my own. And, thankfully, I didn't have to do it on my own because it was God who delivered us from our enemies. And now you want to come here and start some stuff with me today? Like, bring it, And so they deliver them this death blow that they never recover from. And so that's the key point today that I want to highlight is pride and arrogance, and how sometimes our pride and arrogance leads us to do things that in some ways deliver us great pain and suffering. And we find ourselves in situations that, we really can't say anything except, man, my pride and arrogance brought this upon me. And sometimes you never recover from that. Sometimes it's a painful lesson that we learn. But that's what I want you to consider today. That's what I want to encourage you to consider is maybe look back on your life or in recent history and think about your level of pride, and if there's been any arrogance in the way that you have thought or spoken or conducted yourself that has maybe led to some backlash. And what have you learned from that? Consider that. We're going to spend the rest of this week studying Samson. Samson is a bad dude. And so if you want to do some read ahead, we pick up Samson's story in chapter 13, and that goes for a few chapters. So I hope you'll read ahead. I hope you'll do some study. Think about pride and arrogance in your life today. And we'll see you tomorrow. I love you.